Time, baby. All right, we are live. Welcome to Dream Jobs for Pharmacists and How to Get One. I'm Alex Barker, founder and CEO at the Happy PharmD, where we get pharmacist jobs they love. I love what I do. I every day wake up and talk to people like our guests today, Janan Sarwar and Eric Moody, who are two of our Happy PharmD coaches. And we're going to be sharing our journey, each of our journeys, where we started in pharmacy, how we all were burned out in a clinical position, an association management position, a leadership position at that, as well as a retail chain position, and how each of us used coaching, used our own wit and our own abilities, the things that we naturally have, and how you can too, in order to craft a job for yourself and get something that you love doing. Before we begin tonight, I just want to share with you that we're going to be giving you some really great insights and tips. If you would, please write your comments, your questions here live. We'll try to answer them as they come. I apologize. I'm going to be looking over here occasionally because my office is under construction. If you could see what I see, you'd be like, what is going on? So I'm going to be looking over here and we'll try to answer your questions. Feel free to write where you're watching from, where you're at in the world. We'd love to see and hear from you. Two people tonight. I love these things because it's like a social hour for me. I get to hang out with two wonderful people. Janan Sarwar is someone who got on my radar very quickly, and she would tell you that she was kind of in a place in her career where she was wondering if she wanted to go the coaching route. But I said, no, you already are a coach. So Janan, thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us all friends and colleagues and happier than we were before, perhaps.
And Eric is someone that is newer to the Happy PharmD. And I've gotten to know him a little bit more over the last probably like 6 months. We hired him at a point in time when I wasn't involved in the business due to a family illness, but I've really enjoyed getting to hear some of the wins from him and just to hear his journey again, because I mean, Eric, you started off with us as a client, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, and you worked with Dr. Jackie Boyle, correct?
That's right.
Yes. Yeah. I almost slipped there. I was like, wait a minute, is that right?
I'm just
No,
testing
that's
you,
right, that's
see
right.
if you answered correctly.
So, truth be told, I think we're all about the same age. We're not going to share the details on that right now, but we all started our pharmacy career about the same time. When both of you got into pharmacy, we'll start with Eric first. What were kind of like your hopes and dreams for being a pharmacist?
Yeah, so I got into pharmacy like unofficially when I was 16 in high school. I was working after school at a long-term care pharmacy. Ended up moving up pretty fast to where I ended up running half the delivery routes by myself. There was like 13 in all. So I really got into it then. I started working a couple years later in an independent pharmacy, and my mentor, he really taught me about pharmacy ethics, pharmacy law, and just what it is to be a pharmacist. And it kind of got me hooked to the point I changed majors a couple of times in undergrad. And then when I got into pharmacy as a pharmacist officially, it's like I wanted to eventually have my own pharmacy. And I kind of put that on the back burner for certain reasons, which we'll discuss probably in the future here. But that dream is slowly but surely becoming a reality. Again, I'm getting the experience that I want, the business side that I'm craving. And like today 9 to 6 was just a blur. I mean, it was just, I was doing so many things, but I was having a blast every single minute. I was doing so much. It's just, it was good. It's a good thing.
way to tease what you're doing now.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, what I think you're talking about is that flow state when you're doing work that you love, you enjoy it, you're with people that you enjoy, and it's fun. Um, we don't have to share too much of our personal details of what we were doing previously, but John, I know in your experience, you had a lot of responsibility on you, and you grew into this executive role very early on in your career. Was that kind of like the big dream for you, and what you thought you could do as a pharmacist?
Yes, yes. So it was I early on had a dream job, I'd like to say, and the whole time it was a dream, and it's still now what I'm doing is a dream in a different way. But always had a non-traditional approach to pharmacy. In pharmacy school, I noticed that being someone that was actually doing the direct patient care was not my favorite thing to do. I'm a photographer at heart, so I got a little creative in pharmacy school. And so while my classmates were doing the blood pressure screenings and the glucose testing as part of different student organizations, I would go and I was a part of all those organizations because that's what you're supposed to do, be involved and be in organizations. But I was behind the camera photographing those events and writing about them later and helping my colleagues and classmates. So that actually positioned me in a way that I had mentors and other student organization leaders that recognized me and said, you're doing something, it's really cool what you're doing. Maybe we can utilize that. So that standing out in those ways helped me do a non-traditional uh, fellowship after I graduated from pharmacy school, and I was in educational technology, a fancy way of saying I had a way of applying what I enjoyed doing and learning how to use technology in teaching student pharmacists in a unique and powerful way. And so that led to what ended up being a career that I had for over 7 years in nonprofit association, growing my career. And I thought it was the dream position. But what I didn't recognize is along the way, I was also growing my family and responsibilities grew. And yeah, I know this is a little bit the point of this topic is how do we get our dream jobs? And I recognized one moment that it was no longer a dream when I was really stressed by all that was going on around me and actually saw the Happy Farm D. I saw you, Alex, on LinkedIn. I said, "What is this?" And that's the story he alluded to in the beginning of this presentation. And that, I thought maybe maybe I need to look into see how else I can pursue my dreams. So,
I can relate only a little bit to both your stories because for me, choosing pharmacy was really a passive decision. And I panicked my final year of pharmacy school and realized, oh, I don't think I want to do hospital or retail. I think I have to do a residency to figure out something. And then I fell in love with the dogma of clinical pharmacy as the best pharmacy there ever was, which it's good. Yeah, it's good for some people, but it wasn't for me. And in my position, it quickly became kind of like both the work environment wasn't very healthy, and I just didn't love the monotonous work, in my opinion. Some people love it, some people don't find it monotonous, but just for me, my personality, my strengths, it didn't really push me. Janon, you hinted at this idea earlier that there were things about your job that changed. What were some of those things that impacted you?
yes, that's a great question. The recognizing the I enjoyed the work, but there was something that I wanted to do more of, whether it was autonomy or whether there was something where I wish there was a way that I could bring my skills and my skill set to what I was doing every day. There was something lacking. And, I was also pushed by this other mindset and mentality of my parents and other older generations that I worked with of you find a dream job and you keep it forever, right? That mindset of
Yeah.
staying in a position and retiring somewhere. I had this dream, so I was in the back of my mind, I thought maybe there's something more. And then there's also that panic of I might be stuck in this career because I pigeonholed, that's the word I used to use. I took a very niche career. I was in pharmacy book publishing. That's essentially what I was doing. And I thought, there aren't any other associations or other places that publish pharmacy books that have open positions that I know of. So, just this feeling, the fear of, did I make the wrong decision with the career decision that I had? Am I stuck? And is that just the way things are? So those were the things that really, the questions that started to spin in my mind of the changes and how I felt.
And now, Eric, I know that you took the most common path in pharmacy, the thing that employs over 60% of our entire industry, retail, and specifically chain retail. And I think we all know what that means, what that entails. But would you say that your experience was unique in how you handled the stress of the role?
Sure, I guess. I was like, during my 5 years in retail, most of that being a pharmacy manager. In the beginning, I felt like, okay, this is just normal, and then things happened where I had to get out of a bad situation. It wasn't working for me anymore. It was draining. I was depressed. I got really, really low mentally, and I could see it was starting to affect my family. And I faced a decision where, do I want to step down from a pharmacy manager position in retail, which is, it's a hard decision. And it's like, or do I want a better quality of life? And that was scary. It's like, and the whole time there was a voice like, to be sure, this is only you. You're the only person going through this. And when I stepped away and I had the privilege, and I call it a privilege, most people wouldn't, that I had the privilege to become a floater and get to know the area I was in, because I didn't start working there. I didn't grow up in that part of the state. So I traveled all over the central part of North Carolina and really got to see different scenarios of different stores. And I realized, even though different stores kind of did their own thing, the problems we were facing were the same, just the experiences across the board. And I was like, I might be crazy, but I'm not crazy about this one thing. This is a problem here. So I made it my goal that, even though, to make my situation a little bit better, and tried to make what I had work for the meantime. But it led to the point where I was giving so much, I was improving things so much, and the upper levels are like, good job, congrats, now get back to work.
Yeah, I was waiting for that.
Pretty much, to the point where I've spoken to you about this a couple of times, where I was pushing back on my district manager so hard that he would intentionally come to my store and talk to my pharmacy team when I wasn't there, because he knew the kind of questions I was going to ask. He knew I was trying to hold the company accountable. Like, why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we doing this? This idea is stupid. And I would say, this is something that came from someone at a desk who's never worked in retail. It's insane. I phrased it professionally, but that's pretty much the point I was trying to get across, But
you're doing such a good job. It's as if I've given you training on how to say stuff online publicly, which I haven't, right?
Oh, right.
Scott's honor.
You're right.
Good job.
And so, I just got to the point where it's like, this is ridiculous. I can do so much more. I was getting drained. I was given so much and getting so little in return. I was like, I could do more. And I learned how to do more. And now I am doing more. So there you go.
I think a lot of for you listening, wherever you're at in your career, I think we've all had these questions, and maybe they're subconsciously, or maybe more so, the questions you're asking yourself are more focused on the negative outcomes of work. For me, it was questions like, why do I not want to be around my kids when I come home from my shift? Why do I feel guilty about that? Why do I not want to go in to work on Sunday evening? I think Eric was thinking, why can't I give more of myself? Why am I being blocked by leadership? The questions that you are asking yourself, this is a safe place to do it. I would love to hear in the chat if you are asking yourself a question about your current role. Maybe it's a roadblock, maybe it's a challenge. because sometimes, truth be told, your dream job is within the field that you're already in. I think a lot of people feel like retail, community pharmacy, it is on fire and it's not savable. But I think Eric maybe hinted at it a little bit, kind of spoiled it for everybody, Eric.
Right.
But he's still in the community and he's in a job that he freaking loves. So there's something about your career now that you're probably wondering about, what you're questioning. Let us know. We can try to maybe talk about some of those and maybe near the end. So we kind of move to the point where in our stories, we're asking ourselves questions and it leads us to do some weird and wacky things like talk to Alex Barker. Now, Eric, I don't know how you and I got connected, probably LinkedIn, I assume. But I know that you worked with Jackie Boyle, who's our lead coach at the Happy Farm D. And I've, I remember Jackie talking about you as you're beginning your work. And I remember, she uses very specific words to describe people and usually how they make them feel or how they make her feel, excuse me. And Jackie said something about you that was the effect of like, oh, I'm just so excited for Eric. When you started working with a coach, like what did you expect? What was that like?
Oh, what I expected was not reality. Like I expected something here and it was way up here. I mean, it was intense. It was like being back in school, and I love school. So when we had these meetings, it was like 7 o'clock in the morning Eastern time for an hour. And it's like 5 minutes till. I was like, all right, Jackie, I gotta go to work. She's like, okay, cool. And then I go and do my 12-hour shift, and I was like walking on sunshine the entire day. Like people were cussing at me, yelling at me. I was like, yeah, have a good day. Call me if you need a refill. It's just, I mean, it was so intense. Like I had to work for it, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the grind, like putting myself in there, learning new things. And Jackie, she did not hold back, man. She was able to work herself in and find things we were uncomfortable with, things we had doubts about, and she was able to work it out and bring it to light. And like, all right, let's work on this. And it's like, oh yeah, why haven't I known this before? It was an amazing experience. Like it was, like I tell my clients now, like you find out things that you already knew to be true. You just needed someone to point them out to you for you to understand. I was like, yeah, you know.
My coach regularly points out to me things that I go, huh, are you sure? He's like, are you kidding me? Everyone thinks this about you. You're just not accepting it. And the coach does a whole lot more. When you started with us, and then I want to go to Janan next, were you in a position where you were thinking like, I don't know what I want to do in pharmacy, but it's just not this? Or were you a little bit clearer about that career path that you wanted for yourself?
I know I still wanted to stick with something that I can interact with patients because, I mean, asking a retail pharmacist, they are the best and sometimes the worst thing about the field, or they can be. But I love the interaction. I thrive off of it. So I knew I couldn't do hospital, period. The monotony, I agree, was just too much for me. But I knew I wanted to stick with like one-on-one interaction. So I was looking at academia. I was looking at something like inpatient pharmacy and trying to find that. But I knew I wanted out of retail. I knew that within like independent pharmacy, there's a little bit more leeway. Like I'm not answering to corporate. Like you got to get these metrics. You got to call these many people. You got to get this number of shots. Like, no, man, I just got to take care of my patients and make sure the pharmacy doesn't go under. I can do that, you know? So I knew I just want to get out of retail because I feel like I was being held back. I was like in restraints. Like I was doing what I could do to a certain degree, but not my full potential was being used.
Yeah. Janan, did you feel the same way in your career before you transition into what you're doing now? Did you feel like you weren't at your full potential?
Well, I want to answer that, but I wanted to shout out to this comment to Eric from Essa Mashni.
Yes.
Mhm.
So Essa, sorry, my computer's over here. So
I can read it out loud if it's easier for you, or
no, I got it.
all right.
Eric, I worked for a large chain for 16 years, my last 2 years as a pharmacy supervisor, and that opened my eyes. I stepped down. Yeah, kudos for stepping down on your own. It opened my eyes. I opened my own pharmacy for 9, then wanted to reduce my hours. So I floated a few days a week. Then the last few years, I accepted a position in a compounding. Unfortunately, I had to steer my children away from pharmacy because it changed so much in the last few years. Ray, if you could take away the comment, thank you. Um, I think we can all relate that pharmacy's changed. I mean, I only graduated a few years ago, but it feels like forever. And the pandemic just made it a whole lot worse. Well, different, I'll say, not worse. There's plenty of potential. And for Janan, you and your potential, how did you feel about that in this executive role that you had previously?
This is the most interesting thing to me. I thought I was maximized my potential when I was in a leadership role. I had a very high position. I thought I had, as I said, a dream job. And what's interesting is when I became a coach, I learned what coaching really is. And I'll use an analogy that I really love to share. And it's the concept of windows and mirrors. So, a coach, as Eric was pointing out before, will hold up a mirror to you and show you, your reflection, but show it from their angle and point out things that you don't recognize or maybe you saw was there. And it was Alex accidentally coached me when we were talking, and initially when I was basically saying, yeah, I don't know, I made this decision, I'm in this publishing career, and I don't know what else I can do. And behind me was this bookshelf, and he asked, is that a real bookshelf? Is that And I said, yeah, it's not a Zoom, it's an actual bookshelf. It was cleaner that day. And he said, are those books that you published? Is that something you worked on in your job? I said, oh yeah. And he said, how many books are there? I'm like, I don't know, like 40 books that I've worked on. It's not a big deal. Let's get to the point, like what someone said, that comment over here, like, how do I get my happy PharmD job? That's why I'm talking to you, Alex. And he's like, wait a second, do you realize how many pharmacists do you know how many pharmacists can say they've been a part of whatever you're saying, publishing 40 books? I said, I don't know, that doesn't matter, I need a happy job. And it was Alex pointing that out to me, that hey, this is cool, you did something that is unique. We can, did you think of these other options? Did you think of this or that? And so the irony is, I thought I was at the top of my potential. Then, as a coach, so I said, we're windows and mirrors, the mirror of reflecting, hey, this is what I see, the potential I see in you. And then windows of different opportunities that I never imagined. And when we first talked, Alex said, you should help other people publish books. You can coach other people. You could advise other people. And I thought, yeah, right. I'd never do that. And fast forward, it's 3 years later, and it's what I do. It wasn't instant. I didn't make a jump right away. I didn't even make a jump to what I'm doing now. It took several stages and coaches, other coaches, other programs, but um, it all started with a coach like Alex or any of us as a Happy Farm D coach, helping someone really uncover and find clarity in what they already have within themselves and allowing you to see it. It's special.
You said I accidentally coached you, but it was quite purposeful.
Okay, okay.
the you know, if you think about the Olympics, and if you had the ability to compete and actually place in the Olympics, you wouldn't train yourself to do so without a coach. Why? Because everyone else is being coached. And a coach can see technique, it can see strategy, it can come up with plans to save you time. And you hire a coach so that you can actually compete and be competitive in the job market, right? That's why you work with a career coach, because it's very rare in a pharmacy to have a pharmacist work with you as a coach and say, yeah, you can do this. Don't worry, you're not alone. Eric, I'm not shared with you this until now, but I remember a comment someone made about you and about how, like, oh, do all of your clients just become coaches? And I was like, actually, no.
No.
We have, I think it's you and Chris Bakley. I'm probably forgetting someone, but I think you are the only two that have ever done so. And it's because of the potential that I think that you have to coach others. Not everyone who is an athlete becomes a coach, and not every coach, competed even in the Olympics. But it's about an ability, like Janan said, to see potential in people, to understand strengths, personalities, values, and really understanding the job market, and about putting yourself in a company where you're actually happy, where you love what you do. Now, Janan has chose something crazy. Only wackadoos do this. She started her own business, right? I started my own business too, so that's a joke at me at my own expense. But she's created her own culture for herself, and I want to talk about that in a second. But Eric, he really didn't make much of a transition. He's still in community, but working for a company that he actually enjoys working for. Eric, what was the moment like when working with Jackie and you were like, oh, I think I found a community job that I may enjoy? Were you like disheartened by that? Were you kind of like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this? Any doubt at all?
I would be lying to say if there was any hesitancy, because human nature, the unknown is a little, ooh, never know.
Yeah.
Unless you're on Star Trek, then the unknown is really exciting. But I was thinking about it, and I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know if I want to get back into this manager role, because I've been burned in the past. But Jackie kept asking me questions like, well, what do you know about this position? What have you heard? So prior to my current position, I got into a position to kind of set me up for this. It was better than what I had, but I got to that point because I was working with that team. I volunteered to help them out on more than one occasion. Struck up a conversation with the manager there, like, yeah, we would love to have you. I was like, all right, cool. And I started working there more, and I got to the point, it's like, look, I know you need somebody, which I thought never would have said this prior to coaching. I was just like boldly going up to this manager's like, hey, I know you need somebody. I know this team like was transitioned in. I know what I can do. I know how I can help you. This is what I want to do. Like, would you be okay with me applying like to be your manager? And she was like, heck yes. She didn't say those words. This is got to keep it PG for the webinar, but she was thrilled. I was like, okay, I've gotten to know the team. We had a good working relationship, and I came on board. I was like, all right, let's kick butt and take names. And that's what we did. We started cleaning up the pharmacy. We started doing more. We started doing things, making decisions as a team for us and our quality of life that benefited our patients, that didn't come down the corporate pipeline for like 3 or 4 weeks after that. I'm like, oh, we're going to start to do this. Like, oh, yeah, we started doing that 3 weeks ago. And the district manager's like, huh, how's it been going? It's like, really well. Come to think of it, so, and even when I got my current position, I was a little hesitant, but I was prepared. And I got to the point where I just felt my gut, like I knew timing, like I was doing all the things, all the right things. I was like, all right, it's going to work. It's going to work out. Every day I was like, it's going to work out. And then one week it just fell in my lap. And I looked at my wife and I was like, babe, I've got to do this. I've got to try. I came up with the application, the cover letter. I reached out to the current manager, who was a former coworker that I knew. And then the next week they called me in, interview over the phone. Hey, we need to meet you. Okay. Yelled downstairs, babe, I got to go. She's like, why? I'll tell you later. She's like, 2 minutes. I was like, okay, I'll explain. And then I ran out the door. And then they looked at me after the interview, was like, we want you. We got another interview lined up, but we want you. I think you can make this business grow. And I cried. Not even gonna lie, I cried. I was so happy because I've come so far and put in so much work, and I knew I could do it, and I finally got it. I was like, yes. And I've been kicking butt and taking names ever since.
For you listening, you may have missed it, but the subtext, I think, of what Eric shared was that there was a transformation in how Eric thought about his value as a pharmacist. And I'd love a study out there. I'm calling out you, Brent Reed, in your PhD program. We need some information about how pharmacists perceive their value internally. How do they perceive it? Because I think through our coach program, what we focus a lot about is bringing up the amazing things that each of us can do as pharmacists and making that our calling card. Not, we're not going to help you develop a business card. That's not going to get you a new job. It's the belief that Eric shared about who he is, what he's capable of, and how he can help companies grow or expand or do whatever that is. He and I just had a conversation yesterday in preparation for this webinar, and he was telling me about this amazing new project he worked on for the company and how it saved the company a lot of money. Or was it making it? Either way, it's more money. And that in turn can lead to negotiations for salary increases or bonuses. But without understanding your value, what you can do, and leaning into it, I mean, that creates all sorts of opportunities. And that's exactly what Janan did. Janan, as she shared a little bit earlier, you kind of heard in the subtext of that story that Janan had 40, she still does. She's got these books behind her that she's published. She's like, no big deal. Anyone can publish a book. And now she has her own company doing that. So, kudos, Janan. That's crazy. Way to go.
Thank you. And it goes back to exactly what we've been saying. It's that inner confidence or that value when you're stuck in whatever environment you're in. It's hard to see. You're living and breathing something that seems as easy as living and breathing it. Oh, I'm not special. I don't know anything more than anyone else. And then again, when you can really pull out what you enjoy doing, what you're good at doing, and really tease out into where you can find a position or create a position. One of the biggest opportunities and biggest things that I've learned through this coaching program and helping others is the power of connecting with people and just being able to articulate what you love to do. And now I'm being invited on to be a guest on whether it's with students or other professionals who are scared or not sure what they have a passion, they're interested in something, and just telling my story of, this is what I did. And it is it takes it does take energy, it does take being bold to really put yourself out there and make these connections, but so many beautiful things can happen when you're able to share what you're passionate about. And a lot of times we don't even take the time to think about that because we're stuck in the negative mindset, or we're stuck just dreading or dwelling in what our current situation is. I was speaking to a client recently, and one of the things that helped her so much, because she said, I'm not in a situation where I can change my job right away. My husband, he's in real estate. He hasn't been able to make much money for the last several months. We really are relying on my income, so I can't leave, but I'm stuck. And I said, well, let's just talk about your exit strategy, the exit plan. Just that, oh my gosh, it's not forever. I can make a plan as I transition out. Or, just even thinking that way, that you're not stuck where you are. And a coach, or even there are different strategies that the Happy Farm D has that can help you can figure out what those next steps are. So
I think it's really easy to get stuck in your head, right? Janan, I know you and I have had a lot of conversations about the bumpy road of running your business and how easy it is to kind of trick yourself into what is a priority and what isn't. And I think people who are either trying to craft their own job or looking for a new one, like the job market is very tumultuous, doesn't make sense. You apply to jobs, you don't hear back. When you work with a client, what are some of the things that you do to help build strategy around whatever their career goal is?
So for me, it really starts with understanding their why. Why did they choose pharmacy? What sparks their interest in the field? What areas? And it's really digging back, even if it was in school, what things they enjoyed doing, what things they enjoy in their current job. Because that, when you're in that fog of, I need to get out of my job, you can very easily forget the good parts. So being able to talk about, even in something that you're dreading in a current situation, and being able to tease out what is really joyful or exciting, these things help build the strategy. Because if you have things that you're good at doing, we can work towards determining how to highlight that and then find jobs that align with those strengths and those skills. And a lot of times it's not what the client's expecting, and that's again that idea of a coach being mentioning opportunities and being able to tie together and figure out what someone's potential could be that they weren't even seeing. That helps shape the strategy.
Yeah, and go online the same lines that Janan. Like I found my clients, like it's not even the process of like trying to come up with a strategy of how to like meet someone new that holds them back. It's like Janan was saying, it's like finding the things that they already have, all the skills they already have that actually meets what they're trying to apply for, and just helping them realize like even if some of my clients from retail who have transitioned out to MTM pharmacy, for one, I had a client do that. And she's like, well, I don't have the expertise. I was like, hold up. Didn't you just tell me you got this huge star rating with MTMs that your district and area management came down and talked to you about it and applauded you? She's like, well, yeah. It's like, bro, that's it. She's like, yeah. It's like, can you talk about that? Are you willing to talk about that in a potential interview? How you got to that point? Like, oh yeah. I was like, there you go. There's like the meat and potatoes of your interview and strategy deal. Now we just got to work on the prelude and the dessert portion of it, and how you're going to approach the strategy, and you're golden. And she did it. She got it down pat. She got into the rhythm of reaching out to people using that story and how she got to that point. And she's in a brand new job that she loves.
I love that story because it just fills my coffers of stories of similar situations for most clients, right? Forgetting that you did something that was amazing, that you didn't feel like it was anything of value, but it turns out like, oh yeah, managers find that valuable. CEOs find that valuable. I'll be speaking at APHA in March, and I'm talking about interviewing and negotiating. And I just did a little thought experiment about an average pharmacist working 5 days a week for, I think, like 50 or 48 weeks out of the year. And they're doing on average like 150 prescriptions a day. And I took some calculations and some statistics. And yeah, it's skewed and it wouldn't be totally accurate. But a single pharmacist doing that produces over $400,000 profit, of profit, not just revenue, profit. We don't have an understanding. And I think it's because we've demonized the business side of pharmacy. Um, I don't know about you, Janan or Eric, but for me, when I graduated, like the theme of thinking like a business person or thinking, I don't know, proactively about the value of your career, it seemed kind of silly. Like you're fighting against the big guys, and that's a losing battle. Um, do you, am I alone in that, or do you guys felt the same way when you graduated?
Yeah, I mean, you don't see the business side much because it's like, especially if you're in community, more so in retail, you're there to give vaccines, check prescriptions, bag them, review that everything's been typed up, and do that every single day
Hmm.
until you're replaced or you just give up, you
Yeah.
know? And you just don't see the business side of it because that's a whole nother department. They don't want you focused on that. They want you focused on these metrics, you know? It's sad.
You know, I want to deviate a minute and talk about this idea of a dream job. Um, you know, I'll be honest with you, my internal team, people in marketing and sales have kind of said, you know, dream job, it doesn't resonate with people in pharmacy, because when we talk to people, and I've experienced this myself, the phrase I hear very often is, I just want something better. I just want to work less, have a little bit more control over my work. I just want to work from home. Um, and I have to stand powerfully on this, that if that can be a part of your motivation, no doubt, because there's work-life balance benefits from these things, and in most cases it helps you in your mental health and your family. But those aren't compelling reasons to interview you for a job. If your motivation is, I just want to get better hours, I'm tired of working weekends, shift work, I'm tired of this, I'm tired of that, at the end of the day, you're going to be talking to a manager in an interview. And like what Janan and Eric have been hitting home on, your calling card, the thing to convince people to help you to create that dream job or to get it, is built around the idea of what you love, what you're curious about, what you know you can bring value to, and what you actually want to do. That doesn't mean that you have to work 40, 50, 60 hours a week just because you love it. No, no, not at all. That's a bad idea. But what's most important in this situation is for you to find that spark, as Janan said. And what career development research is so clear on, and it's what we talk about in our program, is understanding your strengths, your values, your personality, and having an insanely clear vision about who you are and what you want to do with this career. I don't know about you, Janan or Eric. I'd actually love to hear your favorite part of working with people, but my favorite part was always the beginning. Hearing when I finally kind of like tore away maybe preconceptions, biases, negativity about pharmacy, and I got to hear people say, I hope I can do this. And they would describe it, and you could hear the excitement in their voice if you closed your eyes. That was the best part about my experience anyway. But I'd love to hear from you. What is your favorite part of helping people discover what their dream job could be?
So for me, it's very similar, like listening to actually hearing what they're excited about after hearing the, I hate to say it's complaining, the complaints, which we all have in any job that you're going to have. And I think there's a lot of concern of, am I going to be jumping, what is the phrase, out of the frying pan into the fire, right? With another random job. And it's just the realization when I'm not selling a job or a random job. You as a client are selecting what that job is, and it's far from random. It is something that it's what your calling is. And helping when they figure that out or when they see. And the other amazing part is when clients start having interviews, successful interviews, or getting called back after some of my clients have had months or maybe even more than 1 year of searching on their own aimlessly. And then after working with a coach, as we were saying, with a strategy, with a plan, after knowing what kind of career and how to showcase their strengths, getting called back for interviews and that excitement that just wants you to keep trying even harder and trying even more audacious goals. I think that's my favorite part for sure.
Yeah, I agree. One of my favorite parts is, like we kind of touched on a little bit already, is the mindset change. Is when some point in the entire process of coaching, the phraseology that the client uses goes from, well, that seems like a good idea, like, I don't know, to, yeah, I can do that, or I want to do that. It's like, I want to do this. I know I can do this. It's like, I think it'd be good if I did X, Y, and Z. Just seeing that mindset and just seeing the change in their face and like their facial expressions. They're like, yeah, this is doable. I can definitely do this. They go from doubting themselves to believing in themselves. And that's when the magic happens. And you just try to capitalize on that. And the more you do, the more they just start growing. They get excited, like Janan says, like they start practicing, reaching out to people. It's like, hey, I heard from this person. I heard from this person. I got a meeting set up with this person. It's like a kid in a candy store. They don't know what to do with themselves. They're just so excited about everything that's going on, and it's fantastic. And I'm just sitting there on the other end, like, yeah, keep going. It's so wonderful to see, being through that myself and seeing someone else go through that. It's like, I know what that feeling is, and it's like you can't feel anything but joy for them because they get it. They get that they're tapping into their potential, and they're like, it's that fire hose is just starting to blast. And they're like, yeah, let's just let her rip, man. Go for it.
It reminds me of, this is something I've talked about in my book, Indispensable, which, by the way, if you'd like a copy of it and you don't have it, just send me a message on LinkedIn. I'll gladly send you one. I talk about this concept that's been well established called learned helplessness. And it's a concept that happens to every single human being on the planet and animal, that if in the right conditions, a person will not try to escape a situation, even though there's a clear and cut way of how to get out. And I think a lot of people, myself included, for years, stay, as they say, golden handcuffs to a job that is ultimately killing them or shortening their lifespan or causing them mental distress. And that fear that Janan talked about of jumping out of the frying pan and into the fire, becomes the real situation where it's, well, I'm dying here. Do I really want to jump out and possibly die out there when there's a ton of space around the fire pit that you could land in? And this learned helplessness, I haven't really announced it yet. I haven't talked about this publicly yet, but I see now what the Happy PharmD can do for pharmacy. And I want to change the entire profession. I want every pharmacist that graduates from here on out and that currently practices to have a real understanding of what their internal value is, what they bring to the table, so that society will change. So that when an angry patient walks into the pharmacy, they check themselves before they start yelling at a technician or a pharmacist. And that the government and policy and lawmakers take us seriously because we know what we're doing. And we mean business. We're not playing around. I want to change not just society to really value what we do and who we are, but I want us to change. Society isn't going to respect us if we don't respect ourselves. That's not the way it's going to work. And these stories that Janan and Eric have been sharing, I hear them over and over again, and I see the theme now. I see who we are right now and what we can do to change it. Because honestly, I want to bully the main powers that be to the point where they have to change their working conditions to make them better. Because they're not going to. That's the truth of the matter. I I just got an email the other day from an old pharmacist friend who, I'm going to misquote them. I won't say who they are, but they said something like this, that their boss keeps telling them that things are going to get better. And I don't know if you ever believed that lie or have heard it from a manager or even a colleague or a team member. Like, yeah, things will get better once we're through the flu season, once we get through this inventory, once we get this done. And I'm tired of that. Things haven't gotten better. Stats reveal that burnout is worse, stress is high, suicide rates are up. This is nonsense for doctorate level professionals. And yeah, I'm talking to you bachelor's pharmacists too. You have the equivalent of a doctorate. Enough is enough. It's time to take ourselves seriously. And for us, that means working with people one-on-one or in groups and helping them either create these dream jobs or get into them and create ultimately this transformation of understanding our value and and getting people to notice us, getting people to say, wow, I want you. Like what for Eric's transformation, we want you, Eric. We don't want some other guy. We want you. That is what can happen when a pharmacist radically transforms their understanding of value and themselves. I have to admit, I'm a little scared to admit it because I wasn't prepared to share it. But Janan, Eric, I hope you like the new vision for the company. We want to transform pharmacists and how they perceive their value. What do you guys think?
Let's do it. I mean, you already see the momentum in multiple sources across LinkedIn, online, that it's been a long time coming. And I feel like there's pharmacists out there who just, they want to do so much, but they don't have a voice. I feel like this is a perfect way to do that. I feel like, and quite honestly, I feel like the big retail chains and all the corporations, I think they're afraid, and they should be. I mean, we're the pharmacists, we're the doctors. We know what we're doing. We know how to help our patients. I mean,
I probably shouldn't use the word bully, considering, having
strongly persuade with reason. And
I mean, I had a bully in my early career. It's a part of my story. But that's what it kind of is, right? I mean, if you take a big look, a picture of humanity and society, it repeats itself. And 100 years ago, what did we learn about in school? Labor unions, because the working conditions were so bad. People band together and they burned that you-know-what down because they said, enough is enough. You're not taking us seriously. So we're going to take matters into our own hands. Now, hold on, Alex. This is a live webinar. I am not suggesting that we are burning things down. I am suggesting we burn down this old image, this old imposter syndrome mantra that is ingrained to us through our education. And we get out into the world and we have such self-doubt about who we are, what we do, what our value is. I mean, every pharmacist listening to this can radically change their resume's value infinitely by just displaying in easy terms how much revenue you've generated at your job. No pharmacist does this. We know it for a fact because we review resumes before people send them in. It's time to change. And with that, I think it is time to wrap it up and maybe a few questions if we have time. At the beginning, I kind of skipped over this because I honestly was excited to have Janan and Eric share their stories. But if any of this is intriguing to you and you've not talked to someone from our team, this is your step. This is your invitation to do so. At the Happy PharmD, we get pharmacist jobs they love. We do this through career coaching. It's with working with people like, no, it's this way, Janan or Eric, and it's working with them, and it's inviting to trust our process to get you into something that you actually want to do. And clients who work with their coach on average get a job about a month and a half, a little over a month and a half after the program, when they follow it and they understand who they are, what their value is, how to submit job applications, how to interview and negotiate their value. What I'm going to have our support do, Ray, is going to put a link up here. It's going to be, I think, the happypharmd.com/dreamjob. Yeah, dream jobs. And what I'd like you to do is to schedule a time to talk with our team. You'll be talking with Eric or Tamar, who are two of the loveliest people on the planet, two people that I earnestly love. They're great. And they've talked now to collectively, I think, over 2,000 pharmacists. They have a really good understanding of the market, what people face. And what you'll do in that call is kind of have an assessment of where you are in your career and what you want to do with it. And yeah, maybe it's the glamorous things like I want a remote job and I want to work only on weekdays and I want evenings off and whatever that dream, the aspects of it are. And they're going to provide you with some recommendations. And if you're a right fit to work with us, they will talk about that. We'll talk about our career coach program. I think I saw a comment somewhere talking about price. And frankly, what it depends upon is whether you want to work in a group setting or in one-on-one with a coach. But every program we have is kind of tailored to your situation where we work with you. We're not recruiters. We're not going to just give you a job. We're going to show you the exact skills you need to stand out from a crowded job market to a job that makes the most sense for you. And so if you're ready, if you're willing, you want to learn some more about how we do that, how we work with people as career coaches, who, by the way, are all pharmacists, just go to this link, thehappypharmd.com/dreamjobs. We would love to talk with you, and I would love it for you to be on these webinars in the future. We're going to be doing more of these about once a month, where we're going to be talking with clients. We're sharing their stories with their coaches and how they've gotten out of their positions and into jobs where they're treated well, which I was about to curse. Like, that shouldn't be a selling point. It shouldn't be. It's a travesty that our profession has become this, that it's that so many pharmacists don't feel like they're doctors, that they don't feel respected. But that is exactly what we do. We will help you get into those kinds of jobs. We could have talked about a lot more tonight, Janan, Eric, but you did a great job sharing your stories, both of how you went through the coaching process and how it transformed you and your value, how you got into a dream job, and how you've helped others as well. Thank you for hanging out with me. Is there anything else that you'd like to share tonight before we head out?
Well, talking about the price, it's an investment. I mean, you really got to sit down with yourself, because I sat down with my wife and I watched her testimonial video. It made me cry. I told her.
Really?
Yeah, it made me cry. Yeah, I watched it yesterday after we talked, and I was like, oh my gosh, it just made it come full circle again. Like, it is an investment in yourself to make yourself better, to untap some potential that you've had all this time, and whether from either faults of your own or not at all, or just from the atmosphere you're in, you don't realize it, how much you can do. And the words that my wife used, I'm going to butcher her quote as well, is that she said in her video, her testimonial, that Eric finally realized he could do anything if he put his mind to it because he had the tools, he could do it. And it's like he realizes that now, and that's what he's doing. And I was just like, holy crap, man. Yeah, that's it. And yes, there's a financial investment in this, as with almost everything in life. It is the best decision I've ever made, next to my wife. And it's like way up there. It's really close. My wife is still number one.
Come
We're
on,
married,
Eric.
thank you. And
Come on.
it's
Second to
it's
your
up there.
wife.
I'm telling
Come
you, it is like one of the best decisions I've ever made. I'm not trying to toot my horn since we're on the webinar. I mean, I am now where I'm at because of everything I learned through the program, through the coaches, finding my potential, and I'm not stopping. Why would I? There's so much I could do to help myself, help my patients, help others, help other clients do the same thing. And the love just keeps on spreading out. We can do so much. Like Alex said, there's more that we can do. It's like, why would I want to stop when we got so much that we need to do? You know, so it is definitely worth it, for sure.
Way to get all mushy gooey about your wife,
Sorry.
Eric, at the end. If you actually want to check that out, it's on I think our testimonial page. It's near the bottom. We started interviewing spouses of pharmacists because people wanted to start sharing their stories, and it's a blessing that we're not just changing pharmacists' lives, right? We're changing families. I could tell more stories about children and spouses, and who knows, maybe one day we can like claim that we've prevented divorces somehow. I don't know. I'm just dreaming now. All right. That's the end of this webinar.
Yeah.
Thank you for being with us tonight, for spending an hour with us. If you do have questions, I know there was some questions that we did get to. They were really specific. But if you don't mind, you can email those to me at alex@thehappyfarmd.com. And I'd be happy to have a conversation with you over email about any of those. A lot of the questions I noticed were very specific, and it's a lot of things that we actually cover in our program. But also happy to just chat over email as well. And again, if you're ready to start this journey, now's the time, baby. We're going into a recession, so things are going to get tougher for everybody. Now's the time to be prepared and take action with your career. Thank you all, and have a good night.
Thank you.